Hey all, welcome to ShareTreck. This is Raj here. Friends, we have our good old friend Sandeep back again. Sandeep was away for a while due to personal emergencies, but now he's back. Sandeep, thanks to have you back again.
Hey,
Looking forward to doing more videos with you going ahead. So today, Sandeep, we are going to discuss CRISPR Therapeutics. And while you were away, I did a few videos on CRISPR Therapeutics because, as you know, most of the viewers in our channel are very focused on CRISPR Therapeutics. It's one of the better genomic companies, and it's a happening company. So I have covered CTX 112, and I have done a bit on Casgevy and so on. Absolutely bullish on CRISPR Therapeutics. But what I am keen to hear from you is your first impression about the earnings, which happened on the 8th of May. So can you just briefly let us know what your impressions were, and we can talk about the actual details of the earnings as we go ahead.
great. First of all, it feels great to be back. I look forward to doing more of these videos and feels nice. So thank you very much, Raj. And as you mentioned, you did cover a lot of the drug aspect and the therapy aspect of CRISPR, but I went through their Q1 earnings and I discovered something on the finance and the fundamental side, which is quite interesting. First of all, CRISPR, they reported their Q1 earnings on May 8th, and they actually missed revenue and earnings EPS. The expectation was a miss of 1.36 EPS. However, it came in at negative 1.43. So a greater than expected earnings loss this quarter. However, shares really didn't move that much. I took a look at the day prior and the day after earnings, and CRISPR moved 0.5% after
That's
earnings.
insignificant.
Yes. Yeah, it didn't move at all. So wanted to figure out why. Why such a benign reaction to a miss? And this market is very, very sticky and very, very punishing for a lot of misses. So it's abnormal. Going through, I found out quite a bit, especially when I looked at their cash flow statement. Raj, you mentioned this in one of your great prior videos where so the company, it gets these things called milestone payments, and it got a milestone payment this quarter from Vertex for achieving a great milestone of about $200 million. And that would really helped out its revenue, which great positive for CRISPR. However, the rest of his balance sheet, rest of his cash flow was a little bit different. They got more loss this year than the prior year, and a lot of that is because of revenue recognition. We mentioned this before in some prior videos, but how revenue recognition works is CRISPR, they got $913 million from Vertex, but they recognize that not all at once. They recognize that over time. Of that 913, they've already recognized 370 million of it. But this quarter, they didn't recognize anything. They didn't recognize any of that revenue. They just got that milestone payment, and they also got about $504,000 grant. Aside from that, no real revenue. The reason for that is Vertex, they said that CRISPR cannot recognize any revenue until infusion is done for the Casgevy treatment. So I am not really looking at this more so as negative. I'm seeing this as maybe a catalyst for the next earnings when after this infusion is done, CRISPR most likely will have some more revenue coming in. I think some of the analysts are also seeing this as just kind of a delay in the future.
So
Yes, go ahead.
yeah, so in terms of the earnings, what are the highlights that you have? What are you looking at in terms of highlights? What is it that excites you?
So, Raj, you mentioned that Casgevy is opening up 25 treatment centers. It's in a whole slew of countries. in the European Union, in the Middle East, also in America. And what kind of excited me is that in their earnings statement, they also said that these drugs are very expensive. I see that their sickle cell and beta thalassemia drug can cost as high as $2.2 million. And they mentioned that some drug companies in France, in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain, and in the US, some insurance companies are willing to either co-pay or pay for a lot of this treatment, which is great. Not only for folks who need the treatment, and a lot of people really need the treatment, but also for investors. That is almost like it's saying more revenue is going to come in. That is nice to hear. But from the revenue perspective, what I really like to see was that, first of all, their cash position, it looks really, really good. Their cash position right now is, so Raj, referring to their cash position, this quarter alone, it increased from 365 million the prior quarter. They added $718 million in cash. Now, a lot of that cash was from things like a share offering that was done, and
The milestone payments.
yes, and also the milestone payments, but they also got a lot of interest income. And from that increase in cash, the company now boasts $2.1 billion in cash and cash equivalents. And because of that, they've got enough cash right now to continue operations for the next couple of years, which is nice. Moreover, looking at their cash statement, the company's becoming much more efficient, and their G&A is coming down. Their R&D is also coming down. And although they did have a loss in their income, their OpEx did come in higher. I still see that the company is becoming much more efficient as some of these other back end costs is becoming lower, which is good. Good to hear.
Yeah. So if you look at their pipeline, right, they have got so many clinical trials going on in phase 1. So
Mhm.
we have got the CTX 211, which is the autoimmune diabetes clinical trial. Then we have got CTX 112 and CTX 131, which is also going on in phase 1.
Mhm.
And then we still have a clinical trial on, I think, for the pediatric dose of Casgevy, which
Mhm.
has to be approved. And we have got a few more therapies which are in phase 1 clinical trial. Considering that all those are progressing and they have managed to reduce the G&A as well as R&D expense, I think they have definitely tightened up. They're becoming more efficient. I
Yes.
agree with you. Yeah.
Yes. And they have so much cash that they are able to actually buy short-term and government securities. In fact, just this
Easy money.
quarter, they bought over $250 million in interest earning securities.
Wow.
And if we were just assume that these interest earning securities earn about 5% in just interest income alone, the next year, CRISPR would be making about $12.5 million, and that's 5% of that $250 million in government securities that they bought. And that's low risk too, which is
Yes.
good for CRISPR.
Yes, and if the interest rates start dropping, they will get capital gains also on that. So
Yeah.
they may end up getting not only the interest but also a capital gain if they sold it. So looks very interesting. I mean, this is a sizable chunk of money every quarter if you look at it.
Yeah.
So it's positive.
Mm.
Yeah, that's amazing, Sandeep. I didn't see that when I was looking at the earnings. So that's where your expertise of looking into finance
Yeah.
comes in handy.
Looking
So,
at their 10Q.
what else did you see in the earnings that you would like to talk about here?
Oh, okay. So, a few things that I did pick up and I did find intriguing, is, well, I kind of did a little bit of mental math and wrote this kind of down where if we consider that these countries that CRISPR is in, countries like in the European Union, in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain, in the US, and maybe soon in Switzerland and in Canada, that's about 1 million people with some of these horrible diseases in sickle cell and beta thalassemia. These are very costly treatments. I saw that the average treatment will cost about $2.2 million. If that $2.2 million, the upper end treated those millions of people, that would generate about $2.5 trillion in income. However, Vertex 60% of that. So the
But
upper
we have
go.
to remember, it's not just Vertex and CRISPR with Casgevy.
Oh,
It's
yes.
also Bluebird. It's also going to be Beam, which
Mhm,
will come up with its own therapy, Lifegenia,
mhm.
right?
Yes.
So all those. So what you're actually talking about is the overall market potential for this
Yes.
condition,
Yes.
but the competition will start coming in,
Mhm.
and whatever Vertex grabs, 40% of that comes to CRISPR.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay, I understand.
CRISPR's 40% share of that could be on the upper end. CRISPR is most likely not going to get this, but we could see a upper end revenue for this Casgevy treatment of about $1 trillion. And that could be big for CRISPR, especially if you're a company which is currently a money losing company. If they could get a portion of that, then that can only be not only be good for people who need the treatment, but also good for these drug makers. And just looking at the cash flow statement, just looking at some of these financial statements, these are very expensive to do. I mean, CRISPR spends millions of dollars every single quarter just trying to perfect some of these treatments and therapies.
Well, Sandeep, then if you look at what Vertex has already said, that they have collected 5 patient cells and they will recognize the revenue after the infusion is complete.
Mhm.
So we don't know the cost, we don't know the margins,
Yeah,
but what we know is 2.2 million into 5 is what Vertex is going to recognize, out
yeah.
of which 40% is the recognition that CRISPR Therapeutics would get. So I'm hoping that next quarter they will have that extra bounce on their revenue, which should be a big catalyst.
Hmm. Yes. And I think that the analysts are also seeing that. And I saw that in a lot of the price targets and a lot of the analyst estimates. Actually, one of the reasons I think CRISPR did not fall very much at all is because of ratings upgrades and ratings staying kind of neutral despite a missed earnings. Just going through some of the ones that changed as of recently, a Dow Jones, a Dow Jones analyst actually raised the price target from neutral to um from $46 per share to $52 a share. Another Dow Jones estimate kept the buy rating and just dropped the analyst price estimate from 90 before to just 88, which is a small little cut and very small in terms of market cap. Baird kept their neutral price target rating and actually increased this price target from 46 to 52. And another analyst, from Needheim raised their price target from 88 to 90. So it's almost like some drop it $2, other raise it $2. It's been very kind of the same.
Yeah,
Uh,
the thing is, all these analysts have their own proprietary
yeah.
models through which they run the numbers to
Mm.
get these price targets. But one thing I'm thinking about is when I study how Casgevy is going to implement it. I mean, it's not a mystery. It's there on their website in CRISPR Therapeutics. If you go to the CRISPR Therapeutics website, you will find how Casgevy will be implemented.
Yes.
It's about the patient experience. They have explained to the patient what exactly will happen.
Mhm.
So for Casgevy, right, just cell collection is not sufficient. I can understand why Vertex is being very conservative in recognizing the revenue, saying that they will do it only after infusion,
Mhm.
because cell collection is just the starting point. After the cell collection, there is a whole series of processing that has to be done to convert the cells into Casgevy, and also to keep a backup in case Casgevy failed. They have to restore the bone marrow of the patient. So they will also keep a backup, I suppose, of the collection. So instead of collecting just for Casgevy, I think they'll collect twice the amount of cells, and then keep one in backup and use the other to process and create Casgevy. So all this is going to take time, but as the Casgevy treatment gets ready, the patient is going through a hospitalization procedure where they would be given busulfan or something to clean up their bone marrow so that Casgevy can go and take roots in the bone marrow and start creating modified blood cells. So that whole process involves hospitalization. So from beginning to end, it's almost a year worth of procedures that a patient has to go through in order to successfully complete a Casgevy treatment. It's very intensive, it's very hard. So anything could go wrong at any point, anytime, depending on the constitution of the patient. So there is a little bit of risk element also involved. So all I'm saying is that as an investor, when I look at those 5 patients infused and Vertex saying that they will recognize the revenue only after the infusion is complete, I think they are being a bit conservative, which is a good thing to do, but I would probably expect them to be even more conservative because there is a lot of things to be done after infusion as well. So you have to monitor the patient and you have to see how it is taking root. And some of these therapies, I think they have a cashback kind of arrangement or some kind of arrangement. At least I know for sure Zynteglo has that. So if the transfusion is not successful, then they get back some portion of their money. So we don't know. At least I don't know what commitment Casgevy has given to its patient. So we have to always keep that in mind. So we have to be optimistic about CRISPR. I'm bullish on it, but at the same time, it will be realistic to keep in mind that this is a very, very difficult bone marrow replacement is always very difficult. So there is inherent risk in it, so which we should not forget. But once it succeeds, the money is immense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, in kind of conclusion, where I think that this earnings report for CRISPR, although they did miss, it's not really that big of a deal because they're going to have revenue recognition and an upcoming earnings after this Casgevy treatment infusion is done. And they have a lot of cash, so much cash that they're able to actually invest in interest-bearing securities. And that interest is going to be able to help fund some of the future costs that they're going to occur. The analyst estimates, the analysts, they also see this as still kind of doing the same thing. And also the analyst price target estimate I see is about 79.17, which represents about a 40% increase from where it is today, which is nice. But also there is something I'm seeing in the market where we're seeing a lot more appetite for risk. I think it's has something to do with the CPI inflation data coming in less than expected and inflation starting to tick down. And we're also seeing a sort of dovish Federal Reserve where they're not going to be increasing interest rates. At least we don't think so. In fact, we might see some interest rate cuts. And the risk on appetite is nowhere more apparent that we're seeing companies getting short squeezed and companies which don't have a lot of revenue and in fact are money losing companies like GameStop and AMC and Lucid jumping 100% in a day, which is wild. CRISPR
Absolutely.
itself actually has a short interest I saw of 17.5%. It's not as high as GME, which has 23, or AMC, which has 19, or even Lucid, which has 31, but I'm sure some of that revenue, some of that short interest might even be adding on to, might even be a catalyst if there is a short squeeze in CRISPR. So
Yeah.
there's something to look forward to for next earnings.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. So overall, how do you feel about CRISPR, Sandeep, after going through everything?
Overall, my analysis, my opinion of CRISPR, it hasn't changed at all in this earnings. I think that CRISPR is still, in my opinion, the best genomics company with the best cash position, with actual revenue, and a very well capitalized partner. I think it's earned its position as the genomics company as with the highest market cap, from the ones we cover in detail. I'm still bullish on it. I still like the company. I like it more than many other companies, and I still like it as much as I did a few months ago when we covered the annual earnings. So
Yeah.
it's still good for me.
Do you have any CRISPR shares, Sandeep?
I do actually. I have shares of CRISPR myself.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Not as
I
many
don't
as I
have.
hope, but yes.
Yeah, I don't have. I bought and I sold
Oh,
immediately because the price started moving the other direction.
mhm.
So I sold it before I made any loss.
Yes.
But the money is nicely parked in FNGU, which is going
Uh,
up. I have a gain of around $2,700 on the FNGU bit.
mhm,
So once I come out of FNGU, that money is going into CRISPR, assuming I can get it in the $55 to $60 range. If
mhm.
it's below 55, I'm more than happy to buy it because
Yes.
that's less risk for me.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking at. So Sandeep,
So,
I think that kind of rounds up our quick chat about CRISPR Therapeutics. Is there anything at all that you want to talk before we wind down, or
um,
that's it?
just that CRISPR, I think we took a look at in their annual statement, they said that there's a lot of volatility in CRISPR stock, and they could see after doing a little bit of the market cap math, I think the low end, I remember it being close to the 40s range, and the high end, based off what they see the price fluctuation
Yeah.
is in the hundreds. So right now it's trading at about $56 a share, and that's still kind of in the lower end. So
Right.
I think that CRISPR is something to consider, not financial advice, but something to consider to if you're a genomics investor and if you're bullish about the future. I am.
Yeah. So yeah, if you talk about a range, then that
Mm.
brings to mind the possibility of doing swing trading
Oh,
by
yes.
entering closer to the lower edge and selling closer
Mm.
to the higher edge.
Mhm.
And yeah, so my problem has always been taking profits. I think that I'll get more, and then it starts going down. I think it'll revert back, and then it goes down further, and then all the profit is wiped out, and then we are in loss. So that's what used to happen to me earlier, but now I ruthlessly take profits. I'm
Really?
saying I'm thinking that, you know what, a bird
Oh,
in hand is worth two on bush.
uh-huh.
So as soon as there is a profit, like for example, what I'm doing with FNGU is I have a total of 120 shares at play at any time at the
Yeah.
most, and I have at least 50 shares at play most of the time in FNGU.
You.
So it's a running average. So whenever the price goes down, I buy 20 more or 30 more
Hey.
until I reach 120. And then I start selling 20 at a time to realize profits.
Yes.
So in between, if the price starts dropping and it goes below any of the price at which I have sold, I start thinking seriously about buying. And I
Uh-huh.
try to buy in such a manner that my average cost price is very, very low from the highs that
Yes.
we see. So
Ah,
that has been working for me. And that money I had parked on CRISPR. I took profit on CRISPR last time, good profits. So it allowed me to buy more for FNGU. Now the FNGU is making profit. It'll allow me to buy more CRISPR. So it's a virtuous circle in my
hey,
portfolio. So I'm happy with it at this point.
works. If it works, then keep going. Everyone has his or her trading strategy, and we can
Exactly.
do it. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Sandeep. Thanks for
Hey.
your insight and really appreciate. And I hope we'll have another session
Oh, we
next
will.
weekend. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching our videos. And please do not hesitate to press the like out there and also smash the subscribe button in case you haven't. Press the notify so you don't miss any of our videos. We'll catch up with you again in the next video. Bye for now.
Till next time, friendos.